Good day, one and all. Welcome to the fourth lecture for the course IE 306 Supply Chain and Logistics Management. I am Matthew Baby, Assistant Professor with the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. In this lecture, we will be discussing the various process views of supply chains. We would see two kinds of views. We talk about the cycle view and the push-pull view of supply chain process. Supply chains are essentially a sequence of processes and flows that take place within and between different stages of the supply chain structure and that combine in a particular fashion to fulfill a consumer request. So essentially, supply chains consists of a sequence of processes, and these processes that are performed as a part of a supply chain network or a supply chain can be viewed in two ways. They can be viewed as a cycle view or a push-pull view. So in the cycle view, the processes are divided into a set of cycles or a series of cycles, each of these cycles being a combination of various processes. Okay, so a cycle essentially consists of a combination of various sub-processes of process, and we divide all the processes into we combine various processes as into what is called as cycles. Okay, and in a cycle view we'll have large number of cycles, and the different cycles are being performed or executed at the interface between two different stages in a supply chain structure. Whereas in the push-pull view of supply chain process, the processes are categorized or divided into two categories based upon whether the processes are performed or executed in response to customer demand or in anticipation of customer demand. There are certain processes in a supply chain that are performed only after the consumer has placed an order. So such kinds of processes which are initiated by customer order are referred to as pull processes, whereas there are certain processes which are done in anticipation of customer order or customer demand. Okay, we anticipate or we forecast that the customer demand would be so much, say a particular quantity X, and in anticipation or in based upon that particular forecast of demand, we carry out certain activities or processes. Such processes are classified as push processes. So push processes are essentially processes initiated in anticipation of customer demand. So these are the two different views for supply chains. So supply chain processes can be viewed in either cycle view or the push-pull view. Each of these views have their own benefits or their own uses. So we'll look at each of these views in detail, and we'll also see how they are useful in supply chains. Okay. So we'll start off our discussions with the cycle view of supply chain process. So let us consider a five-stage supply chain structure. Okay, a structure that consists of five stages, essentially the supplier, the manufacturer, the distributor, the retailer, and the customer. These are the five different stages. We consider a structure that consists of these five stages. Okay, now all supply chain structures need not have these five stages. There might be supply chain structures which may not have the distributor or retailer. So these kinds of variations of supply chain structures we have already discussed in the previous lectures. Okay, so for our consideration, for our discussion right now, we'll consider a five-stage supply chain structure, and all the processes in this particular supply chain structure, which consists of five stages, are broken down into four process cycles. Okay, each of these cycles being executed or occurring at the interface between two stages. So the cycle view, according to the cycle view, can be categorized all the processes into four cycles. Okay, for a five-stage supply chain structure. Now, just keep this in mind. I'll repeat once again. For a five-stage supply chain structure, we will have these four cycles. Okay, so these four cycles occur at the four interfaces between the structure that we have taken here. So between the supplier and the manufacturer, there's a cycle of operations taking place, a cycle of process taking place, between the manufacturer and the distributor, at that interface we will have certain processes taking place. We classify them into one cycle. Between the distributor and the retailer, again a set of processes, we classify them as another cycle. And between the retailer and the customer, we have another interface. So in this particular 5-stage structure, we have 4 interfaces, and the processes that take place at each of these interfaces are classified into one cycle. Okay, they are grouped together into one cycle. So there are 4 process cycles essentially for a 5-stage supply chain structure. They are the customer order cycle. That's a cycle of processes or a group of processes that take place between the customer and the retailer. Okay, at this particular interface, all those processes are classified as customer order cycle. Then replenishment cycle is basically the activities or processes that take place between the distributor and the retailer at this particular interface. Manufacturing cycle, it happens, or process that happen between the manufacturer and the distributor at this particular interface. They are classified as manufacturing cycle. And the procurement cycle is that of process that take place between the supplier and the manufacturer. Okay. Now this particular cycle view of supply chain process is basically useful in operational level decision making. Okay, we talked about supply chain strategy or design, supply chain planning, and supply chain operations. In supply chain operations, we talked about day-to-day planning or planning for short term. So for short-term planning, this particular view of cycle view of supply chain process is basically very useful. Thus, the cycle view of supply chain process is used in ERP systems, which is, it stands for Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, for supporting supply chain operational decisions. So operational level decision making is aided by the cycle view of supply chain process. Now this is essentially what I was talking about in the previous slide. Okay, so consider a 5-stage supply chain structure: a customer, a retailer, a distributor, and a manufacturer, and a supplier. Okay, so in this particular 5-stage structure, we have 4 interfaces: one between the customer, retailer distributor, distributor manufacturer, and manufacturer supplier. So between the retailer and the customer places certain processes which take place, and these processes are grouped as customer order cycle process. Okay, between the retailer and the distributor, the processes are grouped into a cycle called as a replenishment cycle, where the retailer basically, once his stocks run out, he basically orders for more stock from the distributor. So he's basically replenishing his stock. That's why it's called as a replenishment cycle. So the customer order cycle is essentially named because the customer is placing the order for his required products or services from the retailer. Okay. Then there is a manufacturing cycle, where the manufacturer manufactures the products, and these manufactured products are bought by the distributor. And then the manufacturer, he requires certain raw materials and sub-assemblies and sub-components which he procures from suppliers. So that's why it's actually referred to as a procurement cycle. Now, in any case, if one of these stages is missing, then certain cycles might be completely omitted, or certain cycles might be combined together. Take the case of a 3-stage supply chain structure, where we have the supplier, the manufacturer, and the customer. It means the retailer and the distributor are not there; they are completely omitted from the supply chain structure. Okay, so if we take into consideration a case of a 3-stage supply chain structure consisting of a supplier, manufacturer, and the consumer, the replenishment cycle process will be completely eliminated, because there is no retailer and there is no distributor. Okay, that doesn't mean that the customer order cycle and the manufacturing cycle are completely omitted. Okay, the replenishment cycle processes are completely lost because there are no retailers and no distributors. There's customers essentially order directly from the manufacturer. Okay, so between the manufacturer and the customer, we have processes which are related to the customer order and processes that are related to manufacturing. So in that particular case, we will have a combination of manufacturing customer order cycle between the manufacturer and the consumer. Okay, so it will be one cycle of processes containing both processes which are belonging to the customer order cycle and manufacturing cycle. So it's a combination of these 2 cycles that would exist in that particular case, and the replenishment cycle will be completely absent. Okay, so as the supply chain structure changes, the number of cycles that are involved and the basic nature of the cycles also change. So just keep that in mind. Now each of these cycles is basically a combination of processes that take place between two stages. So essentially, we can divide all of these processes in each cycle into 6 different sub-processes, or rather, any cycle is composed of 6 different sub-processes. Okay. Now these sub-processes may or may not take place. Out of this first 5 sub-processes they happen, and the 6th one may or may not happen. Okay. Say for example, let us take the case of the customer order cycle. Okay. In the customer order cycle, the supplier is the retailer and the buyer is a customer. Okay, when we talk about another cycle, for example, talk about the replenishment cycle, which happens between the distributor and the retailer. In that particular cycle, the supplier is a distributor and the buyer is the retailer. Okay, take for example the procurement cycle, which takes place between the supplier and the manufacturer. Okay, so in that particular case, supplier is a supplier stage and the buyer is a manufacturer. By the term supplier, I am not referring to the supplier stage in the supply chain. Okay, it essentially means the person who is making the sale, okay, in that particular cycle. He is referred to the supplier in here, and the person who actually buys the product in that particular, who's involved in buying in that particular cycle of process is referred to as a buyer. So the term supplier and buyer here are related to the cycle under consideration. Okay, the supplier and the buyer, they keep on changing based upon the cycle under consideration. If we take the customer order cycle, the buyer is the customer, the seller or the supplier is basically the retailer. If we talk about the procurement cycle, the buyer is a retailer and the distributor is a supplier. So the supplier and buyer are general terms, or terms that are used in the general sense here. We are not talking about the supplier stage, okay, or the customer stage in the supply chain. So the buyer does not refer to the customer stage, and the supplier does not refer to the supply stage and supply chain structure, but rather they are general terms here. So just keep that in mind when I talk about the supplier and the buyer. It essentially means the people or set of people who are involved in buying and selling in that particular cycle under consideration. Okay, so the 6 sub processes in each cycle are the supplier marketing products to the buyers. Okay, so take for example, take the customer order cycle. In the customer order cycle, the retailer markets his product to the buyers. Say for example, a local retail market, okay, electronic retailer putting advertisements in the newspaper. So it's basically kind of marketing to the potential buyers. So the supplier, that is a retailer, providing advertisements in the newspapers and making potential consumers aware about the products. That's basically the first stage. The supplier markets the product to the buyers. Okay, some of these buyers, they are convinced, so their buyer places an order. Then the third sub process is where the supplier receives the order. The fourth sub process is where the supplier supplies the order. Okay, the fifth sub process is where the order is received by the buyer, and the sixth process, as I told you, is a process that may or may not take place. So this is an example for the 6th process where the buyer might return some of the products or recycled material back to the supplier or to a third party. Okay, that particular process is a process that may or may not happen, and this particular sub process in any cycle is basically performed in mind keeping economy, okay, keeping in mind the cost considerations or environmental considerations. Okay, an example is basically a case where you have liquid items being packaged in glass containers. Okay, so the product is basically sealed in a glass container, a liquid being delivered to the customer in glass containers. Now the product that is sold is basically the liquid in the glass container. Okay, but the glass container itself is basically not sold to the end consumer. It's basically the liquid that is in the glass container that is sold to the customer. So at the very end, the glass containers are taken back, right? So it's taken back by the retailer, and the retailer then ships it back to the manufacturer. So such kinds of processes where you see a flow of materials, a flow of products back from the customer side to the manufacturer side. That's called as a reverse flow. Okay, so such kinds of material or product flows also are part of supply chains. Generally, we associate product flows in supply chains in the forward direction. That is, they take place from the manufacturer side towards the consumer side. But there are certain cases where it is vital, okay, taking into account cost considerations or taking into account certain environmental aspects for us to ship certain parts of the product back to the manufacturer. Okay, so such kinds of processes is also a part of any cycle. So this particular sub process, the process sub process number 6, may or may not take place. At the end of the sixth sub process, the cycle then goes back to the first sub process and then repeats. So the cycle repeats itself. So any cycle that we have discussed about, okay, it may be the customer order cycle, the replenishment cycle, the manufacturing cycle, or the procurement cycle. Each of these cycles would be composed of these six different sub processes. Okay. So some of the key points to note when you're talking about the cycle view, okay, they include the fact that there are role reversals in different cycles. Take for example the sub process of a customer or a buyer placing an order. Okay, so that's a sub process, and this sub process is basically part of every different process. So every different cycle. Sorry. So if you take any cycle, it is essentially consists of a sub process where the customer places an order. Okay. Now taking this particular sub process of a customer placing an order in two different cycles. We talk about, take the first case of a customer order cycle where the customer places an order online on Amazon. Okay, so the Amazon is a retailer here and the customer is the end consumer. Okay, so in that particular customer order cycle, the Amazon acts as a seller and the customer is a buyer. When you talk about the replenishment cycle for the same supply chain, okay, where Amazon orders items, okay, for its inventory from distributors to replenish its inventory level, Amazon acts as a buyer and the distributor from which Amazon orders items to replenish its inventory becomes a seller. So you can see that in two different cycles for the same supply chain, okay, for the customer order cycle and the replenishment cycle. Here in the customer order cycle, the Amazon was a seller, and in the replenishment cycle of the same supply chain, Amazon became the buyer. So there are role reversals in different cycles. So as cycle changes, the role played by an element or entity in the supply chain structure or a stage in supply chain structure, it changes. Okay. So even though every cycle, another point note is that the fact that even though every cycle is composed of these 6 different sub-processes that we discussed in the previous slide, there are slight differences that exist in the sub-processes. Okay, so even though essentially we say that each of the cycle is essentially consisting of 6 sub-processes that we have listed out in the previous slide, there are slight differences among these sub-processes. So the first difference is with regard to uncertainty in order. Take for example the order placement in a customer order cycle. Okay, here the customer is the one who actually places the order, that is the buyer is basically the customer, and because it's a customer, the demand is external to the supply chain and thus it is deemed to be uncertain. Okay, it's very difficult to estimate the demand when the buyer is basically the end consumer. Okay, she's basically considered to be external to the supply chain, even though we list him out as a part of the supply chain stages, structure of the supply, the stages in the supply chain structure. His demand is basically external to supply chain and thus it is very, very uncertain. Whereas in all other cycles, okay, say for example the replenishment cycle, the procurement cycle, or the manufacturing cycle, the order placement is uncertain, but it can be predicted to a certain extent based upon supply chain policies of a particular supply chain stage. To make this particular aspect clear, I would like to take the example of the procurement cycle. Okay, the procurement cycle is basically a set of processes that take place between the supplier and the manufacturer, where the manufacturer procures the required raw materials and subcomponents from the suppliers, right? So in that particular cycle, if the supplier essentially knows the supply chain policy, okay, or rather the production schedule of the manufacturer. Okay, if they know that for the next month the manufacturer is going to manufacture say 1,000 units of a product, okay, based upon that particular knowledge of the production plan for the next month of the manufacturer, the supplier can estimate what the demand for their product would be like. So even though the demand is uncertain, based upon supply chain policies of a particular supply chain stage, can estimate what the demand would be like. But in the case of the customer order cycle, the demand comes from the customer side, and this is very, very difficult to determine. Okay, and the level of uncertainty involved will be very, very high. So that is an example of differences between sub processes in a different cycles. So the customer order, say for example, a customer placing an order, the quantity of order, it is very difficult to estimate that in a customer order cycle, whereas for all of the cycles, based upon the supply chain policies of the particular supply chain stage, even though it's difficult to estimate, we will be able to predict to a certain level of accuracy. Okay, so uncertainty in order is one point of difference. The second point of difference to note is that the scale of order and the number of orders is also different. For example, take the customer order cycle. Customers generally, when they go to the retailer and buy products, they buy in small quantities, 1 unit, 2 units of an item. Okay, say for example, an automotive dealer. He is a retailer. The customer is basically the person who is buying the particular car. We are talking about a car dealer. So basically the customer buys cars in 1 or 2 units, right? So the scale of order is basically low. The number that the customer places orders in is basically very, very low. Rather, but the number of orders is very, very high because the dealer might have more than one consumer. So the number of orders are larger in the customer order cycle, and the scale of order is lower. That means the quantity ordered is lower. But when we move to the procurement cycle, that takes place between the supplier and the manufacturer. Okay, there the number of orders is less, but the scale of order, the number that is ordered, the quantity that is ordered is basically very, very large. They order in large quantities, but they make sure that the number of orders that they place is actually lower. So as we move towards a customer end of supply chain structure, we see that the scale of order decreases and the number of order increases. That means individual orders the count of orders increases, whereas the quantity that is ordered decreases when we move towards a customer end. Clear? So this is another point to note when you talk about the cycle view of a supply chain. Now coming to the next view of supply chain process called the push-pull view. We have already discussed this. Push-pull view basically categorizes or classifies processes based upon the trigger for execution or trigger for a particular process. Some processes that are performed in a supply chain, they are triggered by customer order, and some they are triggered based upon anticipation of customer order. So that is why we classify all processes into either pull processes or push processes. Pull processes are also referred to as reactive processes because it's basically done only after a customer has placed an order. You react to a consumer. That's why it's called as a reactive process. So pull processes are also referred to as reactive processes, and these are processes whose execution or action is initiated by a customer order. Whereas push processes, okay, they are also referred to as speculative processes. Here these processes, their execution is initiated by anticipation of customer order based upon forecast. You predict what the customer order would be like or the customer demand would be like. You forecast it, and it's based upon these forecasts that you plan activities. So that is the basic difference in the nature of these two different types of processes. Okay, so pull processes, since they are initiated or they are only started when the consumer places an order, we say that these processes operate in an environment where demand is certain. Okay, customer has placed an order, so demand is for sure that the customer has placed an order. So these processes, they operate in an environment where the demand is deemed to be certain, since these are processes which are only initiated after a customer places an order. Okay. Whereas when you talk about push processes, we do these, or these processes are performed, or these processes are initiated in anticipation of customer demand or customer order, right? So there is a certain level of uncertainty in the environment in which these processes operate. You are not exactly sure if that would be the right quantity. You say for example, you predict that the demand for the next month would be 1,000, but that prediction may not be always 100% accurate. Okay, the demand might be greater than 1,000 or it might be less than 1,000. So there is a certain level of uncertainty involved in the processes which are performed based upon these forecasts. So all push processes are basically operating in an environment of uncertainty. There's also one more important point to note, that the pull processes, or the reactive processes in a supply chain, okay, they are constrained by the inventory or capacity decisions that are made in the push phase. So all processes in a supply chain are either categorized as push processes or pull processes, right? According to the push-pull view. So all the processes that form the part of the push process, they are considered to be the push stage. Okay, and all the processes that are part of the considered to be pull process, that are considered to be the pull stage. So the decisions that are taken in the push phase with regard to the inventory and the capacity, they act as a constraint to the pull processes, or the processes that are executed as a part of the pull stage. I'll give you a very simple example to make this concept very clear. Okay, take for example a retailer, okay, buying and stocking a certain good in anticipation of customer demand. So the retailer, say for example, is dealing with fast moving consumer goods like toothpaste. So he anticipates a demand for toothpaste for the next month of 100 units, and he buys and stocks 100 units of a particular toothpaste, right? So he only stocks 100 units based upon a forecast. So that is why this particular process of him storing 100 units is basically considered to be a push process, because he is doing it in anticipation of customer demand. He doesn't know whether the 100 units of products will be sold, or may be sold or may not be sold. So it's basically speculating demand, right? So the storage of inventory of 100 units of a particular brand of toothpaste is basically a speculative process. So that forms part of the push process, or the push stage. So he decides that he will only store 100 units of a particular brand of toothpaste, anticipating that the demand for the next month will only be 100. So his capacity or inventory is limited based upon his decision in the push stage. Okay. Say for example, say in that particular case, say that the consumers in the next month, there are 120 consumers, each buying 1 unit of the same product, but he can only serve 100 units, because he can only serve 100 customers because he only has 100 units in stock, right? Because he only anticipated 100 units of that particular product to be sold for the next month, but the actual demand was 120. So his decision of maintaining only 100 units as inventory or capacity as stored units, his that particular decision basically acts as a constraint for the push pull process, where the customer makes an order. Customer comes to the retail store and buys a particular product. Okay, once he's out of that particular 100 units, then he can supply no more. Okay, if he has to supply, then he has to make another order. Once again, he has to ask the distributor to replenish his stock. So that is why we say that the pull processes are constrained by the inventory or capacity decisions that are made in the push phase. So the push-pull view of a supply chain is basically one that is useful in strategic decision making related to supply chain design. Okay, so this is basically a very good view that will help in strategic level decision making. Okay, and help us to design a correct supply chain. Now we'll have a look at the push-pull view of supply chain processes for two kinds of manufacturing operations or manufacturing systems. One being made to stock, the other one being made to order. Okay, so in the made to stock kind of manufacturing system, we manufacture in anticipation of customer demand. Okay, we manufacture products, keep them as stock in anticipation of customers making an order. Whereas in made to order, the manufacturing only begins once the consumer makes an order. An example for made to stock would be the case of consumer electronics sold by electronic retailers, right? Consumer electronics like laptops, mobile phones, they are generally made in anticipation of customer demand, and they are basically bought by retailers and kept in stock, right? Whereas take the case of made to order items like custom furniture, right? So they are only made according to your specifications, and the manufacturing only starts when the consumer makes an order, places an order, gives a specification, right? So in these two kinds of manufacturing systems, that is made to stock versus made to order, the push-pull boundary, the location of the push-pull boundary is different. Okay, so first let us take the case of the made to stock kind of manufacturing system. An example of this would be mass market cars like Maruti, Hyundai, etc., which are sold by dealers, or another example would be consumer electronics which are sold by electronic retailers. Okay, so let us say the case of mass market cars like Maruti or Hyundai. Now these items, low cost items like Maruti Alto, Hyundai Eon or Hyundai Santro of that sort, the retailers basically estimate a demand for that particular product and basically buy them and keep them in stock from the manufacturer. Okay, so in this particular case of a made to stock kind of a manufacturing system, the pull processes, when I talk about the pull processes, the customer order cycle process, okay, all the processes which are part of the customer order cycle, they are basically pull process because they are only done after a customer places an order, whereas the processes which are part of the replenishment cycle, okay, so take the case of electronic retailer, okay, buying electronics goods like tablets, mobile phones, they buy them from distributors. So the processes which are part of the replenishment cycle, okay, the electronic retailers basically buy and store these items in stock in anticipation of customer demand. So the processes which are part of the replenishment cycle, where they order items from the distributor and stock it, they do it based upon anticipation of customer demand. They do not stock items only after customers makes an order. No, that is not the way generally electronic retailers work. Okay, so for low cost items, okay, where the unit cost value, the price of a single unit of an item is generally low, generally it's basically made to stock kind of a system that is generally adopted or practiced. So for low cost items, generally made to stock is practiced, and here the customer order, the processes are part of the customer order cycle are all considered to be pull processes which are only initiated after customer order, whereas processes which are part of the replenishment cycle, the manufacturing and the procurement cycle, they are considered to be push processes because all these processes are done in anticipation of customer demand or customer order. So here in the case of made to stock kind of manufacturing system, the push pull boundary is at the end of the retailer. Okay, all the activities is a part of the procurement cycle, right? Till there it is push activities or push process. All the activities are part of the pull processes which are they are considered to be, sorry, all the activities are part of the customer order cycle, they are considered to be pull processes. So the boundary in the push pull view of supply chain processes in the made to stock kind of a system is a retailer. Okay, taking the example of a consumer electronics being sold by electronic retailers. Now let us take the case of made to order kind of. Okay, so before that you will be able to see a schematic of the push pull view of a made to stock kind of a system, right? So we have a customer, a dealer or retailer, a manufacturer and a supplier. Okay, here you are omitting the distributor's stage. So it's basically a 4-stage supply chain. the customer, the retailer, the manufacturer, and the supplier, where the dealer is the distributor is completely missing. Okay, so here we have the customer order cycle between the retailer and the customer. We have the replenishment and the manufacturing cycle between the manufacturer and the retailer. Okay, so here no cycles are missing, but two cycles are combined together here. And then between the manufacturer and the supplier, we have the procurement cycle. So in this particular stage, as I told you, till the customer order arrives, all the processes which are executed after customer order arrives, they are considered to be pull process. Right? So all the processes this is where the customer order arrives. The customer basically places order directly to the retailer. So the customer order basically arrives here. Okay, at the retailer end. So all the processes which are part of the customer order cycle, they are considered to be pull processes, and all the processes which are done prior to that, which include manufacturing and replenishment cycle process and procurement cycle process, they are all considered to be push process. So the push pull, in this particular push pull view, the boundary is basically the retailer. Okay, the push pull boundary is at the retailer. Now we take the case of made to order. So in made to order kind of manufacturing systems, the products are manufactured only after the particular customer has placed an order. Say for example, customized furniture. Okay, the customized furniture is manufactured only after the consumer gives the specifications for his or requirements for his particular product. But the manufacturer itself has kept inventory of items that are required to manufacture the particular product, say raw materials. The required raw materials, say for example different kinds of wood, different qualities of wood, they are kept in stock. So those processes where the manufacturer is involved in buying raw materials and suppliers, they are push processes. They are done in anticipation of customer demand, but they only start manufacturing after the customer has placed an order. So the manufacturing cycle process, they are part of the pull stage. Okay, so in made to order kind of a system, another example is basically the Rolls-Royce. Rolls-Royce cars are only manufactured once a consumer places an order. Okay, so in such kinds of made to order kind of systems, the customer order, the processes involved in the customer order cycle and the manufacturing cycle, they are done only after the customer places an order, and thus they are considered to be pull processes. Okay, and all other processes like the procurement cycle process, where the manufacturer buys raw materials and sub-assemblies required for the product and stores them, buys in anticipation of customer demand and stores it, such kinds of processes are considered to be push process. Now this essentially is basically a schematic that represents the push-pull view of a made-to-order system. Okay, so here essentially we have the different stages. Okay, we have the customer, the manufacturer, and the suppliers. There are no retailers, there are no wholesalers or distributors, because here in the made to order kind of system, the order is basically directly placed by the customer to the manufacturer. So it's essentially a three-stage system here. Okay, so here we have the customer at the end, here we have the manufacturer, and at the very end we have the supplier. Right, so the customer orders directly to the manufacturer. So all the processes that are between the customer order and the manufacturer, they are considered to be pull process, because they are only executed only after the consumer places an order. So the customer order cycle process and the manufacturing cycle process, they are considered to be pull process, whereas the manufacturer buys and stores raw materials and subcomponents it requires, okay, in anticipation of customer demand. So these procurement cycle processes are considered to be push process. So here the push-pull boundary in the made to order kind of system is basically the manufacturer, whereas in the made to stock kind of system, the push-pull boundary is set at the retailer level. Okay, so the push-pull boundary can be varied. Now we will have a look at how the push-pull view of supply chain processes can be used in supply chain strategic decision making. Now, the location of the push-pull boundary, it affects the efficiency of a supply chain. Okay, so the performance of a supply chain is determined by the location of a push-pull boundary. And the push-pull view helps us to ascertain or to analyze what would be the optimal location of a push-pull boundary. Now, this particular approximate or appropriate location of push-pull boundary can be explained. Locating a push-pull boundary using this particular push-pull view can be explained by using an example that is given over here. Now, take the case of the paint industry. So, the paint industry essentially consists of three basic processes, which includes the first process being production of paint bases, then mixing of the required color in the paint bases to get the required paint or the required color, and then packing these. Now, prior to 1980s or until 1980s, all these three processes, that is production of paint bases, the mixing of colors, and their corresponding packaging, were all done under the push type. Okay, that means the paint bases, the quantity of paint bases, okay, the amounts of different colors of paints required, they were all done in anticipation of customer demand. So they were all push type of process. Okay, and the paints, after being mixed with the required colors, were packed and sent to the stores. Now this was a system that was practiced until the 1980s. Now this particular system had certain issues with matching supply with demand. For example, if a store only maintained two colors, say red and blue of a particular paint, and a customer came for a green color, then the store had no stock for the green color and they could not supply the customer with the required color. So that is one major drawback, where when all these three processes are done together in the push mode, in the push phase, this resulted in problems with matching supply with demand. If supply had to be matched with the demand, then the stores would have required to keep very large stocks of paints of different colors. They would have to maintain stock of every possible color that the customer would want, and then they would have to stock them in sufficient quantities to meet the consumer demand. So in such a case where all the process of producing paint bases, mixing the colors and packaging was done in the push phase, there was a lot of issues with matching supply with demand, and when they needed to match supply with demand, they had to keep large amounts of inventories. Since the 1990s, this supply chain structure was modified or restructured, okay, where the paint bases and the corresponding packing of paint bases was done at the manufacturer level. So the paint bases, the colors, the colors that needs to be mixed were sent to the stores, and the colors were mixed in the paint bases only upon customer order. Okay, so this made it possible for the store to keep only lower amounts of inventory, because the paint bases for all colors were the same. Only the color that is required changes. So the mixing of the color to the paint base was done in the store upon customer order. That means mixing process of colors was made to the pull kind. It was changed from a push process to a pull process, and this means the customers will get the required colors that they want, okay, so that the supply could match the demand, and always it also enable the stores, the retailers, to keep lower amounts of inventory. So this restructuring of the supply chain by paint industries was done by analyzing all the processes and classifying these processes as either push type or pull type. Okay, they identified that the push type process of mixing colors would not be suitable for matching demand with supply, and also would not be suitable to keep the inventory cost low. So they changed it to the pull type. So this basic push-pull view of the supply chain helped analyze the paint industry supply chain and help it restructure so that this particular supply chain would be able to meet the customer demands or match supply with demand more efficiently. So this is how the push-pull view of supply chain helps in basically basically dealing with strategic decision making in supply chains. With this, we conclude this lecture. Thank you.